Well, howdy. You can tell how much fun I'm having today. Welcome to the 7th meeting of the 42nd session of the Faculty Senate of Texas A&M University. If you're attending the meeting virtually and need a reminder of the Zoom features used in our Senate meetings, the Zoom tip sheet can be found at our website at the top of the current agenda page. At this time, please make sure your microphone is muted. I'll keep mine on. For those on Zoom, Secretary Tarvin or Speaker-elect Klein will be monitoring the Zoom raise hands function. You'll be called upon before others in the room if possible. He will verbally identify you, and then you can unmute your mic and ask your question. In fairness to everyone, please limit your question to one question at a time, and then we can round back around and everybody else has had their questions answered. Secretary Tarvin will also be monitoring the chat to convey messages as necessary, but we really would like everyone to ask their questions directly. And we're using the registration function of Zoom to track attendance in addition to those who are there today. And thank you all for coming in person today. So most visitors have been asked to view our meeting via our live stream because we have space reserved in the room for our current faculty, accredited members of the press, and our administrators. If visitors wishing to address the Senate may request to address the Senate by sending a message to Secretary Tarvin or Speaker-elect Klein, and then use the raise hands function if those administrators are attending online. And then if you wish to offer a motion during today's meeting, please raise your hand at appropriate time and ask to be recognized. So a few things that I'd like to make sure that everyone is aware of. So first of all, there is a survey information that went out from the provost office today regarding the governor's executive order, and this has to do with doing business with certain countries, research, things like that. And there have been a lot of questions. And so we asked the administration, asked the provost office to please help us gather information. They have created a Qualtrics survey to do that. Please share that with your colleagues. It has gone out to all of our faculty, our staff, and our graduate students. If someone is concerned about their privacy, if they're afraid to ask the question, please feel free to enter that information for them because this is all just about gathering the questions. They'll send the first round of questions to OGC this by Friday, I believe, yes. And they'll continue to keep it open for a while, but the more we can get those questions in, there might be, 37 different versions of the same questions to get those themes identified. But even if you think everybody else has asked the obvious question, please go ahead and ask it. It's extremely important because someone may have missed it or you may catch a nuance that no one's thought about. So again, please offer to your colleagues to be the one to ask those questions on their behalf if they're uncomfortable with doing so, and just encouraging people to respond. Also, we have the Texas A&M University 2040, the new visioning of looking at the university, what we'll be looking at in 15 years now. So that information has gone out to all of our faculty and other groups, but looking for people to nominate themselves or to nominate others to be on that committee. And there's subcommittees. So basically it's broken into subcommittees that will be looking at very specific topics. And we will be looking at candidates and trying to find, the best matches for those committees. So please consider nominating yourself or nominating someone else for those committees. Also, we have the executive committee voted on behalf of the Senate as per our bylaws in December, actually, that editorial changes that are non-substantive, but editorial changes on the syllabus for the minimum syllabus requirements could be approved through the EC or just be approved. And we wouldn't have to go through the Senate for those because it does create a delay. One of the challenges, and this came up because of the helpline that's been discontinued. So one of the interesting things is they create the Canvas shell for that very early. And so we were concerned that because it had already been created, we couldn't make the change. But we are going to make the change because it's editorial of just dropping the reference to the helpline off of the minimum syllabus requirements. That will be changed on our website, and that reference will be deleted. So faculty can fix that. Right now, they can actually edit that in your Canvas shell yourself. If you neglect to leave it off, that number is still active. Last time I called it, it just refers people to other resources. So it won't, the number still provides a reference, but it doesn't actually lead to the helpline that we used to know. And they're looking at doing some other type of support for our students in need, peer mentoring, but they do have the TELUS Student Health Support app, and they have other resources as well. So at any rate, so we'll just make that edit on our minimum syllabus requirements, and then the faculty can just make those edits themselves. And again, if they already have their syllabus out, they didn't get a chance to make that edit or they missed it, it's not a penalty to them. And again, the number just still refers students to other places. I think I caught all the announcements that I needed to make. I catch up with everything. Good. All right. So we had, I think, a guest speaker list on our agenda. We just always use that as a placeholder. We don't actually have a guest speaker today. I thought that we were all pretty busy with trying to get going with the first day of class. So that my speaker comments were kind of it. So we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the December 9th, 2024 meeting minutes found in attachment A?
Madam Speaker,
Yes, sir.
Dale Rice, College of Arts and Sciences. I would like to request that my remarks at the December Senate meeting be added to the minutes. I think it's very important for the record to reflect that there was a conversation about violence against some members of the campus community.
Absolutely. We'll make that addition. Thank you. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? Anybody online? Okay. Hearing none, then I declare the minutes amended as distributed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns on the January 13th consent agenda items? Is there anything online? Anybody raised their hands online yet?
Yeah, I have a question. May I ask a question?
Okay, we're having difficulty hearing you. Hold on just a second. Go ahead, Senator Sinha.
Yeah, this is Samiran Sinha. I'm from Statistics Department of College of Arts and Science. I have a concern about one of the new courses in the consent agenda. And
Okay, so let me just explain. If you have a concern about something on the consent agenda, then for everybody, just for your reference, the only thing you need to do right now is ask that it be removed from the consent agenda, and that's non-debatable. And then we will bring it up at the unfinished business immediately after the rest of the consent agenda. So can you tell me the item that you'd like to have removed?
Yeah, it is MARB 608.
What number is that on the agenda?
32.
B32. All right, thank you very much. That will be removed from the consent agenda, and we'll pick that up with our unfinished business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, David Babst, College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Geology and Geophysics. I would like to ask that item B221 be removed. That's VTPP 358, Comparative and Evolutionary Physiology of Dinosaurs.
B221, okay. All right, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Heather Klein, College of Arts and Sciences. I'd like to request that B29 be removed from the consent agenda.
29.
ITDE 601.
All right. Any other items? Anybody online? Okay. All right, so hearing no other questions or concerns, I declare the January 13th consent agenda approved as amended with those items removed. All right, and unfinished business, we'll take first the item B32. So one of the things you can do is ask to have something tabled. You can ask to have it returned to the department for discussion for a support letter. you can express your concern, and then we have to vote on whatever your action is that you propose. Go ahead, Senator Sinha.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak. So for this course, this is a statistical methods course for environmental analysis, and it has listed all the statistical methods without providing some prerequisites, necessary prerequisites. So I think that department should consult with our department, at least get a support letter from the statistics department.
Is there anyone from that program that would like to respond? Anyone from Galveston? Okay, Senator Sinha, what would you like to? Oh, sorry. Senator Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I am not in that department, but I can certainly bring them on board for a discussion if that would be appropriate for this following week.
So Senator Sinha, what would you like to have happen?
So I request the department that Galveston campus to consult with the Department of Statistics and get a support letter.
Okay, so are you proposing to table this course until you have that action?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Okay. Give everybody a chance online to raise their hands. All right, you can put your hands down. Any opposed? Okay. The ayes have it. All right, thank you. We'll table that one. So any senator can request to have a course taken off the table at a future meeting, so that if someone from Galveston or statistics or whoever wants to have that brought off the table to have it voted on at the future meeting, then we can do that. Okay. So our next one is Senator Bass. 221.
The Department of Geology and Geophysics would like to ask for that course to be tabled so there can be a discussion between our department and the Department of Veterinary Physiology. We've already reached out to the department about starting that discussion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second over here. All right, all in favor, let me ask, is there anybody from VTPP who wants to address that? Okay, go ahead, please, online.
That would be me, Tammy Frank Cannon. We have started those conversations, and we're fine with having it come back for further discussion and having it tabled. So,
all right, thank you so much. Okay, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hands. Probably easier to raise your hands, huh? This is nice because it counts everybody who raises their hands. All right, you can put your hands down. Any opposed, please raise your hands. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. And again, you can bring that back off the agenda. And next is item B29, Senator Klein.
So the course that's being proposed, ITDE 601 Linear Systems, is it's a course that has a heavy overlap with our linear algebra course. We have started conversations with the department that is proposing this course, but those conversations are ongoing and currently unresolved. So I would like to make a motion to table this item until a letter can be attained and agreement can be reached between our departments.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, I've got a second. All right, I see Senator Pickens. Do you have your hand raised to address that? Or ask a question? No, okay, no worries. Any other
Nope, sorry.
discussion? Go ahead. No worries. Any other?
No, I just forgot to lower it.
That's no, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I do that all the time. Is there any other discussion or questions on this particular course? Fine, okay. All in favor of tabling, please raise your hands. Okay, you can put your hands down. I'll let it tick down here. Go ahead and lower your hands if you're online, if you're not voting next. Okay. All opposed to tabling this, please raise your hands. All right, the ayes have it. It will be tabled. Thank you very much. All right, so the next challenge is going to be, let's see, committee reports. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with the core curriculum report found in attachment C? Give folks a moment to flip to that part of the agenda. Any questions or concerns? All right, hearing none, I declare the core curriculum committee report approved as submitted. All right, next is our new business. We have 2 student rules that will be of consideration. So I'll call upon Secretary Tarvin to make the motion to approve these.
I move approval of attachment D1, student rule 14.2 to degree requirements.
Is there any discussion? Anybody online? Okay, so all in the favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, you may put your hands down. It's always hard when you're online finding the hands down button. All right, please raise your hands if you are opposed. Okay, the ayes have it. Motion approved. All right, Secretary Tarvin on the next one, please, sir.
I move approval of attachment D2, student rule 20, academic misconduct.
Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Clint. Did you have Senator McGill, do you have a question? You're muted, sir. You're muted. Did anybody have any questions or discussions on this? Okay, well, all in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand. Like we've stabilized. Okay, you may put your hands down. Anyone who's opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, the motion passes. All right, Senator Towns, oh, go ahead. Senator Kolesniski, did you have something?
Yes, I have some new business. I'd like to propose some amendments to the faculty code of conduct that was discussed at the last meeting.
So Senator Kolesniski, if you could hold on for just a second, that was something I left out of my speaker comments. So thank you though for the reminder because my brain is stopped up. So having all the concerns that were brought forth in the last Senate meeting, I have actually asked that committee to go back and look at it and make changes based on the feedback that we have provided in the Senate. And so for those of you who had specific concerns, if you would like to email those to me, I will get those. We've tracked them from the meeting before, by the way. So because we want to make sure that committee could look at it holistically, because they need the feedback to kind of hear the perspective on everything. So if people could send those to me, then I'm going to ask that committee to come back with a draft that captures those concerns. Depending on and then when we have this proposal, then we would talk about it again. But the other benefit to that is that we can then get that draft out to all of our faculty also to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to provide their feedback to the Senate and to their senators.
Well, just the same, I'd like to propose a motion to add and delete certain things from the faculty code of conduct. And I suppose I would have to propose this motion to be considered at the next meeting.
Right, because we don't actually it hasn't been on our agenda to be voted on yet. That was for informational purposes.
I can't propose amendments to it then? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, what I was going to say is that what you should do is propose those. You can certainly do it in committee of the whole, but we haven't got any action items to move on today for that.
But I could make it an action item. I can propose a motion to make these amendments, which is what I want to do right now.
I have to ask our parliamentarian because I'm not sure you can make amendments to something that hasn't been formally proposed yet. But maybe you can't. I don't know.
No, you can't do that at the moment. There is no action item on the agenda to propose an amendment to.
Okay. Very well. I guess I'll send the executive committee my proposed amendments and hopefully you can incorporate them in the next draft.
So, yeah, so if you would please send those, then we will get them to the committee that is proposing that document. Because we've asked them to take into consideration, like I said, the feedback, the things that we've had on there. And then if those changes aren't incorporated, then absolutely when we have it on the agenda for voting, then that would be the appropriate time to make those proposed amendments.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Of course. So thank you for the reminder, though. I appreciate that. All right. Senator Townsend had something that was an issue. So we had an item that had been proposed from Galveston, and we've had a little bit of changes. This opportunity for another announcement. Sherilyn has moved to a different position in the university. We were very grateful for all her support and all the work she's done to get us well back on track. And she has found an opportunity that she couldn't say no to, unfortunately for us. So she has moved on. Kelly Richard, who is our gold star over here, is taking on that role for right now to be able to support us. So, and this was not Sherilyn's fault. This was my fault. Something got sent to the speaker for consideration on the consent agenda, and it just got lost in the shuffle over that. So, there's two things that we could do since this is, and I need to ask our parliamentarian a question. So this was a proposed department name change. And I also need to ask Dr. Dorsey if she has feedback on this because they're concerned about this making the catalog for next year. So Dr. Dorsey, could you maybe address this and if this is something that the Senate needs to vote on today? Well, I don't feel so bad then. Senator Townsend, could you please bring up, go ahead.
Could I interrupt? I'm sorry, Madam
Absolutely.
Speaker, but you can simply add the item as an emergency item to the agenda now. It's permitted under our bylaws, chapter 4B4.
Okay. Dr. Dorsey, I need your advice, ma'am. So, Senator Townsend, could you please explain what it is that we're looking at?
Yes, absolutely. There is a memorandum that was submitted to the Senate requesting a change of names from the college, within the College of Marine Sciences and Maritime Studies. change the Department of Liberal Studies to the Department of Maritime Studies. It is a name change of a department within the College of Marine Sciences and Maritime Studies. It has been unanimously supported at the Council of Deans on December 4th, 2024.
And that was, I presume, voted on by the faculty in that department?
Correct.
Yes, it was.
Unanimously supported.
Thank you.
Sorry, not to interrupt. I'm from that department if you want a voice from the department as well. But yes, on everything Grace said.
Great, thank you. Dr. Dorsey's going to come and help me out here.
Sorry, I had to figure out exactly what the issue is. As an administrative change of a department, it does not require faculty senate action. And that is already because it's an administrative action that is not a curricular item, but it's about a department name change that is proceeding. We're submitting it to the coordinating board to get it changed on the program inventory.
Okay. Historically, the Senate has chosen to vote on these to provide support and feedback. So
yeah, this is the opportunity for feedback piece,
okay.
Not a motion that has to be voted on action.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Well, a motion and voted can be feedback. So yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So do we require a vote for me to add this as an emergency item? Okay, then I would like for us to vote on that because I think it's important that the Senate provides feedback through the way of a vote to support this. So this is changing the Department of Liberal Studies to the Department of Maritime Studies. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and this is okay. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hands. Sorry. Any opposed? I'm sorry, you can put your hands down. Give right time to put their hands down. About the time I get a hang of this, it'll be Speaker-elect Klein's turn. All right. Any opposed, please raise your hand. All right. Unanimous motion passes. Thank you. All right. Now I can turn this over to Speaker-elect Klein to take us in committee of the whole.
Are there any items for committee of the whole? Senator Kolozinski has raised his hand.
Yes, so I actually would like to ask the executive committee if they're planning on responding to the general counsel's office decision to very broadly interpret the governor's executive order on collaboration with China. So when I read that executive order, it's not entirely clear that the governor's intent is to ban all professional travel to China. It's clear that he doesn't want anybody accepting money from Chinese government entities for travel or for other such things, and that's a reasonable request, in fact, because yes, the mainland Chinese government is a hostile government. They do not have the best interests of the United States at heart, and I think it's appropriate that we do not accept money from them. On the other hand, professional travel to China is absolutely essential for certain people who are doing research on China. If you want to do research on Chinese financial markets or the Chinese economy, which is relevant to a lot of my constituents and colleagues, you physically have to go to China for certain things. And I think it's actually, given that China is a hostile foreign power that does not have the best interests of Americans at heart, I think it's actually quite important that we do research on China. One of the first, the art of war, one of the first things in there is know your enemy. Yes, China is our enemy. And I think it's actually quite important for us to study our enemy. And by prohibiting professional travel to China, we are actually making it much more difficult for us as a society to know our enemy. I'm wondering if the executive committee would consider sponsoring a resolution urging the general counsel to do a less restrictive interpretation of the governor's executive order. Is there any plans to do anything of that sort?
Would you like to say something, Speaker Price?
Hi, Senator Kolosinski. So one of the reason that we're working with the administration to do this survey is to gather exactly those kinds of concerns and those questions, because there's a lot of people who have those same concerns about research work that they're doing, travel and things like that. I don't disagree with it at all. I think it's a huge concern. The provost is here. I don't know if he would like to address that. We are stuck with, we're still waiting to see what OGC is going to say. So they actually haven't made a decision yet on how they're going to interpret it.
Oh, because I received an email saying that all professional travel to China was prohibited. Maybe did I read it incorrectly?
Okay, so I may be misunderstanding that. Provost Sams, you might want to talk about that. I'm going to leave it over to you. But at any rate, we're still trying to understand what exactly OGC has said and what they have decided on the longer term and how they're going to implement it. If this was just a pause until they've made their final decision. I think they're still learning from the governor what the intent is as well. So once we kind of know exactly where we are, then I would not be surprised if a resolution came up, if not from the EC, actually from the entire Senate.
Yeah, go ahead, Provost Sams. Yes.
Yeah. So the OGC hasn't developed their final process yet. They're in the process of developing that implementation process. They did issue a decision that all professional travel to those countries was going to no longer be approved. And that was in an email that came out from me right before the break. So that is a decision, but it said that email also said that personal travel at this point is unaffected. And that's to reflect that we're still in a process of working out how we're going to implement the executive order.
So is this professional travel now? I mean, are they going to reconsider that? Is this only temporary while they consider it further? Because the way I read that email, it seemed like a final decision was made prohibiting all professional travel to China, even if it's not funded by China.
Well, so there's a lot of nuances, which is what you're getting at there, right? And I think the decision that came from the general counsel was that no more professional travel was going to be approved. Now, whether or not that's some kind of an interim decision or not, we'll have to wait and see what this final process is going to be. But we have stopped approving professional travel to those countries.
Yeah, and I just might like to say, I've noticed this happens a lot with A&M lawyers. They like to prohibit things that don't have to be prohibited, and this seems to be an example of that. Because I read the governor's executive order, I don't see anything saying that all professional travel to China is gone. What I see is a prohibition on being any sort of funding from China.
Well, that'd be a great thing to submit as a comment. So the Qualtrics survey is going to say, do you have any questions? But then there's a second question, do you have any other comments? If you'd like to make some comment about that and send it in, that would be great. But General Counsel did issue a decision before the break that said that professional travel to those countries is no longer going to be approved. And so that's kind of where it sits right now. They didn't make a ruling yet about personal travel.
Well, yes, but I'm concerned about the professional travel. And
I understand that. And I understand you.
Is it final or not? Do we know if it's final or not, or is that you don't know? Okay.
OGC hasn't issued their final process yet, so I don't know.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Senator McGill, is your question on this topic or another one?
It's a different one.
Mine's on this topic.
Yeah, we probably have a few more people who have questions on the topic, so we'll get back to you, Clint. Senator Sottile.
Yeah, howdy, I'm Frank Sottile from the Mathematics Department. I wanted to add a little more to what Professor Kolosinski pointed out. So my department was in discussion with somebody about a senior position, and they withdrew when they heard about this travel ban. We also have another faculty member who's been approached by another institution about whether they'd be willing to move because they're pissed off about this. And Chinese students, like, or postdocs, have curtailed their travel to China. They're concerned about the effect on them. I also, we have faculty members with family in China. So this note that they've yet to even, they're going to consider whether to allow professional travel. This is a huge, this is a huge own goal by Texas A&M, that their legal department is interpreting this so broadly. Maybe that's what the governor intends us, but I think we're going to lose people, and we're going to have a lot of faculty who are going to be really frightened about this. I'm mad as hell.
I think a lot of people share your concerns, Frank. Senator Bernal, is your question on this topic?
Yes, it is. And actually, my question is to Provost Sams, and it has to do with the something that was in the email, and he alluded to at least a couple of times just a few minutes ago, and it has to do with the issue that personal travel at the moment, at the time, is not being prohibited. And my question is, how can personal travel, personal business be prohibited at all?
Give our provost a few seconds to get up to the mic.
I'm not an attorney. I'm going to depend on OGC to make those legal nuances between their right or the governor's right to restrict anybody's personal travel. I can't necessarily explain what the governor meant by that or how it's going to be interpreted legally.
Senator Arroyave, is your question on this topic?
Yes, it is. So first of all, I would like to make a comment. I don't see the countries that forbid personal travel, they tend to be on the opposite side of liberal democracies, just to state this clearly. I don't see, and the executive order doesn't refer at all to personal travel. So if, the Office of General Counsel over-interprets, as they usually do, this executive order, I don't see how we can keep an thriving international community within Texas A&M. As Professor Kolasinski mentioned, this also affects our research and scholarly work on a very important topic. But my question is the following. In the context of the executive order, there have been some emails being exchanged about further directives that forbid faculty from participating in, or being co-authors of papers, involving co-authors of countries of concern. And I got an email in the context of a research committee of the Senate where some faculty mentioned some directives related to pre-publication approval processes being thought of and perhaps being implemented by research compliance. And, if that is the case, this just adds to the concern that all of us have, right? I don't see why, papers that are, falling within the fundamental research exclusion that do not involve funded collaborations, but where faculty are co-authors of a basic science paper, are going to have to go through this process, particularly when we consider the fact that many collaborations involve authors from all kinds of institutions and countries. And sometimes we're not even the primary authors, but we work together with people from all kinds of institutions just doing fundamental science. So my question is specifically, is there also consideration about pre-publication approval workflows for work being done in collaboration with people who may be in countries of concern?
Provost Sams, do you have an answer to that question? The Provost indicates he doesn't have an answer now. Raimundo, I think a lot of people have that concern, and we'll look into it for sure to see if we can get a good answer. I think Senator Miranda has his hand raised.
Thank you. And this was also regarding the same issue. I looked at my email train, and I'm not able to see a Qualtrics survey regarding this issue. So I would just ask respectfully Provost Sams to make sure that the email did go out to everybody. And then I have to, sorry, go ahead.
No, the provost gave a thumbs up, and it's probably health science center issues.
Possibly, yes. But it's concerned me that because it's something that concerns a lot of our faculty, and going to Raimondo's point about personal travel, that is unbelievable that the university is even going there, trying to invade privacy issues. They want reports on where you go and who you meet. Right against self-incrimination. We don't know how these things are going to play out, and so it just surprises me that Provost Sam's answers that were dependent on OGC. So I'd like to be able to know that there is some ability to push back by the university and not just accept what is given to us to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Miranda. And again, I think this just underscores the importance for all of us to fill out the survey when you get the link. And Provost Sands made it clear to the leadership of the Senate a couple days ago that they're taking this survey very seriously and in a very timely fashion. Senator Kolozinski.
Yeah, I want to have two things. One, I want to respond to something that Raimundo said. I actually also had experienced this myself. I was told that I couldn't continue to collaborate with a co-author in China because he's in an institution of concern. This despite because they're worried about heightened export controls. But this is incredibly stupid because, number one, this is fundamental research, which is exempt from all export controls. And number two, all the data that we're using for our collaborations is public. So there's literally no national security implications whatsoever about me collaborating with this person in China. Now, what I was told, I had a Zoom call today with someone in compliance about this. Apparently, it can be appealed. So this is something to tell your constituents that if you get a collaboration request like this denied, there is an appeals process. And so I'm going to be working through that appeals process, which again, it's yet another administrative burden that takes away time from my research, which is something that is not good for Texas A&M, but fine, I'm going to go through that appeals process. You should know that the appeals process is available. I'd also mention to lots of faculty, you don't have to be a lawyer to know that a state government has absolutely no authority in restricting individuals from traveling to a country where they're allowed to travel under federal law. So if the university tried to do anything to stop us from engaging in personal travel, provided we didn't have, if you have a security clearance or if you're privy to some sensitive information that's related to defense, that's one thing. But if you're not privy to any classified information, you don't have a security clearance, you're just traveling to China on vacation, and the university tries to discipline you for that, that is clearly illegal under federal law, and you'd have a great lawsuit on your hands. And it's time that the general counsel become just as afraid from litigation from faculty as they are from other people, because if they try to restrict personal travel, they would have a serious lawsuit on their hands if they tried to restrict me, for example. So I wouldn't really worry too much about that personal travel, but we need to make clear that they got to fear litigation from us as much as anybody else. Thank you.
Senator Laporte.
Hi, Katrina Laporte, College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Anthropology. My question is about the data that's being collected as a result of this survey. Are the data going to be publicly disclosed so that we can compare the data with the outcome?
Provost Sams.
That actually hasn't been discussed, but I'm sure it's discoverable, right? Because we have it. So that would be something that would be open to, FOIA request. Well, I'm not saying we haven't discussed what the disposition of it's going to be. We're going to be using it to we're sending it to general counsel. It's very similar to the way we sent information to them when we had the SB 17 discussion and debate 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And we're sending batches of questions and concerns to them at that time. But so when we get the final process from OGC, we'll use all those questions and concerns in terms of the context in which we apply that process here now. But yeah.
I asked him if I could make a follow-up comment. My question comes because quite often faculty are asked to fill in surveys and they go into a black hole, and the outcome is not representative of what we think we're providing as feedback. So for sake of transparency, following the President's message of 2 days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, yesterday, welcome back, and improving communications and transparency on campus, I would like to think that the data that's collected from us, in the same way that I collected data about the bookstore and return those results to the faculty, I'd like to see the data come back to us so that we can see and correlate the outcome with what we said.
Thank you, Senator Laporte. I don't think it's a problem for us to make that request.
Yeah, and I don't either. We didn't tell people when we sent the request out that we were going to publicize the information, all the responses. And there's potentially some concerns that people have about putting those responses in. And so I think it's something that I don't want to just say, yes, we're going to give it to you. I think I need to consider the implications of that.
Yeah, the EC will look into that. Senator Bernal, your hand is raised.
Yes, I continue to be concerned with this survey. And my concern is that the questions before us, whether professional travel or personal travel even, should be legal or not under this new directive. Those questions have a very clear either yes or no answer. So what is the purpose of a survey? I'm concerned that maybe the Office of Legal Counsel, if it does not see sufficient response to what they may want to direct on this, may take that as a green light. And so I'd like some comment on the purpose of this survey. I mean, what weight does it have if these are simple yes or no questions?
So this was a request that I had talked with the provost and the president about to get, and I would say less than a survey. It's just an opportunity for us to be able to ask questions, and that we can make sure that our questions are seen by OGC. Now, does that influence the outcome? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I think we all need to be able to present our questions and concerns through the provost office to OGC. So I don't know that it would necessarily change the outcome. I hope it would. But we also need to make sure that at least we have voiced our concerns and our questions so that they can't say, in the hypothetical, they can't say, we didn't know you were concerned about that. We didn't think that was a big deal. There's a lot of unintended consequences that people who don't do our jobs on a day-to-day basis understand. They don't see the consequences that we see. And it's our responsibility to help make sure that OGC understands our concerns and the questions that we have so that they can address it when they're looking at what the governor's office has said.
Provost Sams wished to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that the word survey is a bit of a misnomer in this situation because you're being asked to ask the questions about the executive order or the process or the implications, whatever. And then you might not have a question, but like Senator Kolzinski, you might have a comment or some interpretation or something that you would like to add. And so those are the two response fields that are in there. And Qualtrics was used simply because that's a convenient vehicle that's going to collate all the responses to make it more convenient for us to send an OGC to receive. So that the survey word is probably not appropriate in this situation.
I presume Senator Arroyave, your question is on this topic?
Yes. So first of all, I second Senator Kulasinski. I think that I don't see how, the state or even the university, given that we tend to overinterpret rules and regulations, would, even dare to prohibit, faculty to just travel on a personal, basis to any country that we would like to, visit, as long as we comply with federal regulations. But my comment here is, on the record of the Office of the General Counsel, I have been involved in situations where OGC or research compliance objects to papers or has brought papers that I have been part of that have been published, where the primary authors are, scientists at Department of Energy, National Security, nuclear national security, labs like Lawrence Livermore or Sandia or Los Alamos. They were cleared internally. The paper was submitted for publication, for review. It was published. I was co-author of a paper, right? A person from China was also co-author of the same paper, and a person from Russia was co-author of the same paper, but I was not connected at all with them. They were connected to my, national lab collaborator. And still, this publication was flagged, and I was questioned about this collaboration, even though I had nothing to do, and the federal government had already approved that collaboration, right? And approved the publication of that paper, right? So this has happened before, even before the executive order, right? And I am afraid that this is going to keep happening. And frankly, those of us that, are fed up with this type of policies that can move to other places that are less restrictive, eventually will move, right? And guess what? Most of the people who are really research focused, right, and very productive research-wise, we don't want to be living under this, I don't want to make any, exaggerated statement, but this is getting to the point where, we don't have a lot of, academic freedom anymore, right? And this is going to hurt our reputation. We're going to have a very hard time recruiting scholars, postdocs, and grad students that come from these countries, right? And this is like shooting ourselves in the foot, okay? I used to joke that at least we were not Florida, given all the, restricted policies that are going on at the University of Florida and other public, universities in that state. But we're getting there. I cannot use that joke anymore, right? Because in some cases, we are actually becoming more restrictive than the most restrictive states in terms of academic freedom here in this country, right? And this is extremely concerning of me. If this is the route that the university is going to take, we should probably be aware of it, because many of us are not willing to keep working for this place when our restrictions to carry out fundamental research are curtailed in this way.
Thank you, Raimundo. I think a lot of people share your concerns. Senator Carpenter, do you want to add to this conversation? Your hand was up for a while.
I apologize. I'm having a hard time coming off mute. I also am at the College of Medicine and Health Science Center, so I do not believe I received that email. Thank you for attending to that and for bringing it to our attention, as Dr. Miranda had brought forth. My question, having not been able to see that email nor the request for comment, is whether or not this is actually going to be held in confidence. In other words, I understand that the overall results will be discoverable through a FOIA request. However, are the individual requests, questions, and concerns of the faculty that are being expressed in such a non-public forum going to be held in confidence, given the risk for retaliation? Thank you, and have a good day.
So I guess the question would be, is this going to be an anonymous survey or not? Senate Provost Sams. And again, if people have concerns, you can forward them to the executive committee and others can post them for people who have concerns.
I can't say that I know. We're looking it up right now.
Thank you.
But if anybody has any concerns at all, you can send it in through the officers or the executive committee, and they'll send those on your behalf anonymously.
Thanks, Provost Sams.
It's set up as an anonymous survey.
That will allow us to be able to convey that, because while it may seem to be something of little concern or little consequence, it is of substantial consequence to a number of regards to the faculty and their families as well. Thank you and have a good day.
Senator Rice, is this on this topic?
It is to note that even emailing things to you does not protect the person sending those emails, because they're also available under Freedom of Information request. As someone who teaches this every semester to his students, I think it's important to be aware. So the only way that you can protect people would be through the anonymous nature of a survey.
Senator Kozinski.
Yeah, I just wanted to just make a practical suggestion to Provost Sams. Even if the survey hasn't been set up so that it's anonymous, you could release all the results and make them anonymized, and that could potentially that could head off the desire of people to FOIA it, right? So that would be my suggestion, that when the survey is complete, if it's not already anonymized, anonymize it and then release the results for everyone. I don't see why you couldn't do that or how that would hurt anything. Thank you.
So again, I think it needs to be emphasized, this is not really a survey. It is just using Qualtrics to be able to get feedback from the community about what your questions and concerns are.
Right, so anonymize the feedback and release it. That would be my suggestion. If you want to call it feedback, that's fine.
Yes, Leonard Bright from the Bush School. So I would say that if this is something that is important enough for us to stand up and speak to, we shouldn't be ashamed or afraid to let our voices be heard and people to know who's saying what. You know, if it's that important, and this is important, let's not fear people knowing who we are. I mean, and actually there's often safety in numbers anyway. So I would say, even if they find out who said what's the harm in them knowing that you said something and that you spoke the truth to the matter and address something of importance. So yes, I don't think there's hardly anything that we can do in this university and our identities not be known. It's you know, someone can dig and someone is going to know. And let's not let that deter us from stating what needs to be stated.
Thank you, Senator Bright. And Senator McGill, thank you for your patience for your question.
Well, mine's relatively irrelevant compared to the last topic, but it was in the consent agenda and everybody voted for it. But there's P121, clarification of dissent language in the final exam. When I read through that, I was amazed because it said even if it's a one-person committee deciding on the graduate student's fate, a dissent would be it couldn't be overcome then. Well, if it's a one-person committee and they dissent, I don't know why you'd need to add that statement. It just seems crazy to me, but it won't hurt anything. It just doesn't make sense.
So is anyone aware of a one-person graduate committee?
I didn't think there could be such a thing.
Okay, well, thanks, Clint. So are there any other items for the committee of the whole? Senator Rice.
So a month ago, I brought up on the floor of the Senate about my concerns about violent incidents, multiple violent incidents against LGBTQ students on this campus. It's been a month and I haven't seen or heard anything that would make it appear that the administration is taking any action or making efforts to see that these things don't happen, especially in a time of harsh political rhetoric that I expect is going to continue as we go forward. And I think that it is important that at some point in time, this university say, we are not going to tolerate violence against members of this community with whom you disagree or who may be different than you are. And I'm disappointed that I haven't seen anything to that effect yet. And I intend to bring this up here every month until I see something done in relationship to this. Thank you.
Thank you for your concerns. Senator Banerjee.
Yes, hi. I was just wondering, considering that the Texas legislature is meeting for the budget session, this week, I'm wondering if there is any feedback from the Legislative Affairs Committee. I was kind of curious if anything were discussed in this regard.
You mind, Senator, Speaker Angie O'Price said not yet.
Okay, sounds good. And any other items that were discussed in the Legislative Affairs Committee,
So Angie said they're still waiting to hear guidance.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So anybody else have something for Committee of the Whole?
I just wanted to, I'm sorry, Francisca Marini from the College of Performance, Visualization and Fine Arts. I wanted to follow up to what Senator Price said. Actually, in the brief that the president sent out in December, there was a mention of using the Tell Somebody form and reporting these incidents. I personally met with the campus police. I said what I knew, the colleagues would witness some of the incidents, we'll reach out to them too. So my impression is that there is a concern and people will follow up. We just have to make sure we report. But I also understand that maybe Senator Rice is asking for like a stronger statement, but from what I see, they're receptive of what is happening.
Yes, I think Senator Rice is wishing a strong statement from university leadership on this topic. But that's a good point. If people see something, it needs to be reported so that there is evidence that something happened. Just on maybe a lighter note, please mark your calendars for March the 3rd. I believe that is when our joint meeting with the UT Faculty Council will be. It will be in person this year, somewhere in Austin. We're working on the venue at this time. Sorry for this delay. We've been struggling with getting administrators to be able to meet at this time. So we'll actually see what our agenda looks like going forward, but hopefully it's going to be on the 3rd of March. Senator Arroyave, I believe that's you.
Yes, I'm second Senator Rice's concerns, right? The fact that we haven't heard anything back, I mean, it may be because we are afraid of offending someone or going against the political winds, but I think that we as a Senate can just make a statement saying, hurting people because of who they are, if these aggressions are substantiated, is wrong, right? Regardless of what that is. You could be, of any political persuasion, you could have any identity you have. Like, A&M Aggies are just Aggies, right? Without any qualifier, and everybody should be respected. And, if the administration hasn't, made a statement and these allegations are substantiated, I don't see why we couldn't have some type of statement ourselves, right?
Is that something you would like the executive committee to look at, Raimundo?
Yes, please.
Okay. Anything else for committee of the whole? If not, I will return the meeting to Speaker Angelo Price.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Hands went up so fast. Any second? All in favor, say aye. All right, we're out of here. Thank you all. Have a great first week.